Welcome. I'm Lee Philbrook, for those of you that don't know me, and I'm a mind, body, and soul expert who works with women in their midlife to create tangible transformations in their Act 3. So, Hakalau, it's a really powerful tool that can do really a myriad of things. So, when you're feeling out of sorts and you want to feel calm, centered, and balanced, it can help you with that, feeling grounded, because what it does is it puts you into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest. It can also help you with your peripheral awareness, right? So if you're doing sports, it can help you to know where you are in space to give you more coordination, more balance. It also is super helpful when you're in your head, right? So it can help with mental clarity, it can help you with, you're having a bad day with those negative emotions, with those limiting beliefs, right? It can help you let go of stress, anxiety, and fear. It can also really help you when you're learning something new, right? Because all learning and change happens it takes place in the unconscious mind. And this technique connects you to your unconscious mind, right? So hence it can help you solve problems much faster. And really the best part of Hakalau is it's super, super simple, right? So what is Hakalau, right? Hakalau actually originates from Hawaii, and it's known as the waking state of the Kahuna. So it was the wise men or the shaman. And if we look at the word Kahuna, right, the na part of Kahuna, na actually means calm, centered, and balanced. So in ancient Hawaii, the shaman or the wise men wouldn't go around advertising they were the Kahuna, but people might know they were a Kahuna because when shit hit the fan, they would be calm, centered, and balanced. They would be the person that could deal with things, right? So really what Hakalau is it's a state of entering into deep trance while maintaining external awareness. So let's look at the word Hakalau. So if we look at the first part of Hakalau, so it's Hakalau is Hakalau. So Haka, Haka, really means to focus in and spread out is the meaning of Haka, and Lao means to pay attention to the peripheral, right? To pay more attention to the peripheral. So, and that's opposed to foveal vision. So what is foveal vision, right? And foveal vision is where we often spend a lot of our time, right? So we've got the blinders on, we're looking at our computer, we're looking at our phone, right? And we feel disconnected, right? It puts us, why? Because it puts us in our sympathetic nervous system. So that's our fight or flight response. In contrast, Hakalau is really known as the learning state. And why? It connects your conscious and your unconscious mind. So, if you go back to school, I don't know if you were that kid that would fidget in school and couldn't concentrate, couldn't pay attention, right? Well, what would your teacher say? They would say, concentrate and focus. And that actually puts you into that foveal, into that focused vision, but that puts you into the stress response. So it actually disconnects you from your unconscious mind. And as I mentioned, all learning and change takes place in the unconscious mind. So in going into Hakalau, learning becomes easy and fun. So the interesting thing about Hakalau is it's really a paradoxical state, right? Because you're basically aware of everything, but not paying attention to anything, right? So you then really trust your unconscious mind that it will redirect you when you need to pay attention to something. So I can give you the example of when you were learning to drive a car. So most of us, when we're first learning to drive a car, have to do it consciously. We're paying attention. Where's the gas? Where's the brakes? Where's the steering wheel? Where's my rear view mirror? And as it becomes unconscious for you, you don't have to pay attention to every detail, right? You become, it's, you've been driving for ages and all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't even paid attention, right? It's been your unconscious mind. And it will tell you, there's a red light. You need to pay attention to that. So you trust your unconscious mind that I don't need to pay attention to every detail, right? Um, so you can see all the things happening at once. That's why it's important to be in peripheral vision. So really, when you're learning something new, you want to go in to Hakalau. You want to go into peripheral vision. And then you also, when you want to retrieve that information, you want to be in the same state. So you want to go into Hakalau to retrieve the information because all memory is state dependent, right? So we want to be in the same state as when you learned the information. The other amazing thing about Hakalau is, as I mentioned earlier, you can really break state or release negative emotions. You're having a bad day, you're feeling stress, you're feeling anxiety, and literally in a matter of seconds, you can let it go. That's what's so cool about this, right? Because when we focus on our problems, we can't see the solution, right? We can't see the bigger picture, right? We're stressed, we're anxious, and we're in that. What it does to our system is it puts us into that parasympathetic, right? That fight or flight response in our system. It's now been proven by neuroscience, right? That when we go into what I call Hakalau or peripheral vision, you go into your parasympathetic nervous system, that relaxation response, right? That rest and digest. So you feel calmer, you feel more centered, more balanced. And it's why when you go, like if you go out in nature or you go out to that beautiful vista and you take in that peripheral vision, you feel more relaxed, you feel calm. That's why. So what I love about my morning dips, right? When I go down to the water, right? I'm taking in the peripheral, like, that vista of the morning, the sun, all of that. And it puts you into your rest and digest, that parasympathetics. So the other amazing thing to do with Hakalau is to combine it with breathing. And I like to combine it with what I call ha breathing, right? And it's a 1-to-2 ratio. So it would be one, if I was breathing in for 2 seconds, I would breathe in through my nose for 2 seconds, and then I would breathe out through my mouth for 4. So what it looks like is this. So it's a right. So I'm breathing in 2 seconds through my nose and out 4 through my mouth. I can even slow it down, but it's that 1-to-2 ratio. And why? The one thing more than anything in our physiology that changes our state is our breathing, right? And if we look at the idea of heart math, to go into a state of coherence, it's when that optimal state can occur when our mind, right, and our heart and our emotions are aligned and in sync. So we know when we're not in coherence, and I've had this, and I'm sure other people may have experienced this, is when you're a public speaker and you get brain freeze, right? You've done all the preparation, you know what you want to say, and your brain and your heart go out of sync, right? And literally it shuts down your frontal lobes. You can't think, it all disappears. And believe me, I've had this happen before. It's the deer in the headlights, right? We're just, you're kind of in freeze. You can't access anything. And by going into peripheral vision, right, slowing your breathing down, you get back into that coherence, right, where you're in sync, your brain and your heart, right? So it's really a technique that you can train yourself to override that response. So whether it be anxiety, whether it be fear, whether it be, being stressed by a problem, Hakalau is this amazing technique to allow you to really think more clearly and handle difficult situations. So, who would like to learn how to do this by a show of hands? By the people on camera here. Beautiful. Okay, beautiful. So, first of all, just notice your current state, right? Just do a little check in on how you're feeling right now. And what you want to do is you want to pick a spot on the wall, right? So just maybe above the computer, and you don't need to lift your head. You just want to lift up your eyes, right? So you want to lift up your eyes and let your mind go loose. Let your eyes soften. And now what you want to do is you want to notice the peripheral. So your vision starts to spread out and you want to see more of your peripheral. So if I were to put my hands by my fingers, my hands by my fingers, my hands by my ears, right? I could see my fingers in my peripheral vision, right? So it's spreading out. And you can take it 360. So you can imagine a tennis ball above and behind your head and even above you, right? Take it 90 degrees up. So you're opening up all around you, your peripheral vision. And now relax your tongue and your jaw. So you really want to have that soft tongue. You can try pushing your tongue up to the roof of your mouth and then let it relax. Or you can have that kind of vegetative, the like when you're watching a movie or watching television, right? Really let your jaw go loose. And now take a moment to notice your breathing, right? So we're going to do that ha breathing. So it's breath in. So breath in through your nose and ha out your mouth. And breath in through your nose and ha, breathe out through your mouth. And one more time, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. So as I mentioned, breathing is really such a key thing to shift your state, to shift your physiology, right? And it has you go into that mind, heart, and body coherence. And now I want you to just notice the sounds around you. Yeah, and I see some of you yawning, which is perfect because basically that tells you that you're going into that rest and digest if you yawn, right? So notice sounds around you. Notice maybe the fabric of your clothing. You might notice the chair or whatever you're lying or sitting on. You might notice your feet on the ground. Just notice how you feel. Yeah, just take a moment here. And really, the goal of this technique of Hakalau is to be in Hakalau the majority of the time. So the idea would be that you can maintain contact with people and still be in peripheral vision. So most master trainers, Zen masters will be in peripheral vision like literally 90% of their life. They're in peripheral vision. So doing this takes practice because it's not something we're used to actually take in all of this because we're so used to being in that foveal, right? Or that focused vision. So what I would suggest is to try to do this technique 10 times a day. And I find that if you hook it on to something else, like every time I have a glass of water, I'm going to practice Hakalau. I'm going to practice that peripheral vision. It is so incredibly helpful. Maybe every time you sit down and look at the computer before you go into peripheral, because we tend to get pulled in, right? Focused. You might place sticky notes, all around the house. So every time you see a sticky note, you're like, oh, Hakalau. I need to do Hakalau. And again, it is like that's it. That is the technique. That's the practice of Hakalau. It is so incredibly powerful. And I'll tell you, you master this technique, it'll change your life. So, who has questions? Does anyone have a question? You can either put your hand up or you can unmute yourself to ask your question. Well, while you're thinking of your questions, I will share another technique around Hakalau, um, that if you're really feeling anxious, like some people get panic attacks, what you can do is when you look up, right, to go into Hakalau, when you look up, you can actually imagine seeing your phone number in lights and then try to read your phone number backwards, the first four numbers of your phone number backwards. And that's actually a break state. So that really will help you disconnect from whatever stress you're feeling and then go into the peripheral vision from there, right? That really helps to disconnect you from that stress response that you're feeling. What I would recommend too is, as a practice, you can really do this as 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes before you go to bed. So staying in that state, and you will just notice how much your system, I call it down regulates, but really relaxes. And when you lengthen that ha breath, so when you breathe in, I try to do it for 4 and then ha out for 8. Your system really relaxes. You're in that peripheral vision. And an additional technique that you can add on here, so this is the bonus thing that you can do, is what's called havening. And that's Havening, havening. And it's a psychosensory technique. And it's really a light touch technique that's, yeah, and thank you, Monica, for putting it in the chat there. It's havening really allows your whole system. I find when I haven on top of this, that's when I definitely yawn. So we can try this. So I'll demonstrate it and then you can try it. So I go in, I look up, and again, you don't need to lift your whole head up. You just lift your eyes up, right? I go into that peripheral vision. I start doing my ha breathing. And then the havening, you go from your shoulders to your elbows. And whatever touch feels, I like saying it's like giving yourself a hug, right? So what you're doing is you're going from your shoulders to your elbows. And I do it in rhythm with my ha breathing, but I can't speak and ha breathe at the same time. So it would be, and without fail for me, when I do it, I yawn, which to me tells me that I'm going into my parasympathetic nervous system, right? I'm relaxing. Beautiful. So, oh, Monica, you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
I was
Hmm.
wondering when you initially put your eyes up and then
Hmm.
like you relax the jaw, um, notice the periphery and all of that. Like by the time I got to havening, I suddenly
Hmm.
realized that I no longer had my gaze up. Should I have kept my gaze up the whole time, or is it okay, like as my system starts to relax, is it okay for me to not have to force the eyes up kind of thing?
Yeah, and it's, the art of this truly is that you can be speaking to someone and be in Hakalau. So part of it is to disconnect us from the stress response and to go into that peripheral vision, but you don't need to necessarily keep your eyes up. But if you can keep that panoramic gaze going, that's what's really helpful. So because very quickly we go back into focus. So if you can keep that really soft gaze and keep it open, it's kind of like you're aware of the whole room. As a presenter, you want to be in Hakalau the whole time because you want to be connected to everyone. Then you'll notice what's going on in the room. So it really is ideal as much as possible to stay peripheral, but not, yeah, it's difficult to, so that's a really great question, Monica. Um, Yeah, it's the beginning of the technique, and also when we're focused or when we feel down or depressed, what do? We often look down, right? So just in lifting our eyes up, already we're elevating our emotions, we're elevating our feelings by just the act of looking up.
Thank you.
So thank you. So if anyone else has questions, by all means, don't hesitate
I have
to
something.
reach out to me. Oh, okay.
Hello,
Jill,
hello, Lee.
hi, beautiful. Thanks for coming.
It's not so much a question, more of an observation, and then interested in what
Mhm.
your response to this. So your Hakala exercise brings me back to my many years of martial arts.
Yes,
And martial arts, when you're training and you're beginning, you learn your form, you learn your structure of your body, how to hit, how to defend. And it's very singular and it's very focused. But as you continue to train, and certainly when you're in an actual fight or sparring training, you are taught to keep your peripheral present at all times. And the meaning is that or the practical application, but I think it all coordinates here, is that when you are in a high stress situation like a fight, you tend to whoosh, your focus comes in and you get tunnel vision. But if you're trained and you're composed and it comes with a lot of training, so confident with your movement, confident with your ability to defend yourself, then you can keep your vision big. You can keep your peripheral. That way, you keep your awareness and your safety against other potential opponents. You're one opponent who's moving different parts of their body. So it's actually keeping your peripheral is a sign of higher training and calm and focus. So I thought that was kind of interesting how that coordinates.
absolutely. That's such a perfect example. Thanks for sharing that, Jill. And that's absolutely it. You know, David Shepard, who's a master trainer of NLP, says when he speaks, he has nothing in his head. It's the unconscious mind. So again, when you know your stuff, when you know your material, you trust your unconscious mind, so that whether it's the move or whether it's whatever words need to come, that they will come in that moment because you've practiced, whether it's your speech, whether it's your techniques, you'll know, because the unconscious mind wants to keep you safe, whatever it is. And it will say, there's a red light over there, or there's something dangerous, this is what I need to do, right? It will signal you, and you're aware of everything around you, so you're not caught off guard. Yeah, because we don't see things coming in life because we're so focused in. So thank you for that, Jill. And yeah, if other questions come up, by all means, shoot me an email. And reach out to me. I'm happy to answer other questions. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and learning a little bit about Hakalau and Ha breathing. And we also added in havening, and understanding that this is really the waking meditation of the Kahuna, or the wise men, and that it helps you let go of stress, anxiety, fear, helps you solve problems. It is very much the learning state. It's how we want to learn, being in Hakalau. And it puts us into our parasympathetic nervous system, into that rest and digest, so that we're able to be aware of what's going on around us and stay calm, centered, and balanced.